Today on the Fittest Fat Kid You Know, my buddy drops by to repossess your heart, along as your car if you fall behind on payments. My buddy Matt Burch is going to be talking about how he lost 100 pounds, cleaned up his mindset, cleaned up his diet, and got his fitness back on track. And also he's going to brighten your day because that's just the kind of guy he is. So hit that music and let's get this party started. Joining me today is a man who, since the moment I've met him, has really been an inspiration to me. And I don't just say that because he's sitting across the room from me and he can beat me up. This is a man who has, throughout his life, worked hard, but with my own eyes, I watched him put in the time and the reps well before anybody else would dare turn up at the gym. I thought I was the early one, but I wasn't. It's my main Matt. Matt! How are you doing this fine afternoon?
I'm fine. How much better can life be? We're here in the Hollywood Hills with this beautiful view of LA. I'm here with my good friend today. I don't think life gets much better.
It really doesn't. Depends on what food comes later, but
yeah, there we go.
And food is a big part of what we're going to talk about. And speaking of food, Matt, a quick update. So this week, I weighed in at 242 pounds, 0.2. That's down from the last time I weighed myself by 4.4 pounds. So some progress. As I said last week, this was my girlfriend's birthday week. We went away. I was off diet for about 2.5 days because we were up in San Luis Obispo and there was some amazing restaurants and it was celebrating her birthday. So I took the time off, had cake, had Italian food, and then came back onto a 5-day fast. And did a lot of walking, not a lot of lifting, but I was out of town. So that's my update. I'm pretty happy with the progress. But when we're talking progress, the reason I wanted you here today, Matt, is because the last time I saw you was pretty much at the start of the COVID pandemic. So it's been a while. But you really made an amazing amount of progress since I last saw you. I mean, 2 weekends ago, when I saw you for the first time in a while, when you magically appeared out of the back weightlifting room, which in the way that you do, silently somehow. I don't know how somebody with your build moves like a shadow through the world, but you do it. But you had dropped, like overall from the time I first met you, you've dropped 100 pounds.
100 pounds.
100 pounds. But I think from the time I saw you last, it was more like 60 or 70, which is still an amazing amount of weight in the period of time. How did you do it? What were the steps you took, both from a diet perspective and a physical perspective? Because I think you were not always overweight. You got there relatively recently. Mm-hmm. And maybe let's start with that. Tell us a little bit about your fitness progression into your, let's call it your nadir, your low point.
All my life, I had been in shape. Wrestling team in high school. I started weight training at the age of 13 years old, and I'm talking old school weight training. I learned from the pro bodybuilders of the time period. My brother was associated with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Dave Draper. So it was all old school training. And that happened all of my life. And it was the one avenue I had that I could progress on myself. Because in weight training, in this lifestyle, you're only as good as what you do. You're not depending on somebody else to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. So all of my life, I had been in shape, even throughout my career on TV, in shape, doing my thing.
Like you were like a jacked bodybuilder type.
I was about 275 with a 32-inch waist. I was a wrecking machine. I was a pure wrecking machine.
Professionally so.
Yeah. That's what I did. Well, not only was I on TV, as you know, I repossessed cars and was a bounty hunter. So my life has been very physical.
You are definitely the baddest ass teddy bear walking the face of the earth. It is an amazing contradiction, like, because you are a tough SOB and yet one of the nicest, absolute sweetest, big-hearted guys.
Well,
It's just not.
I find it much better to talk people out of a situation than to actually get in one. But if it's nice to be able to have both the abilities to be able to talk your way out of something or fight your way out of something. I'd rather talk my way out of something, though. Yeah,
So all of your life,
in shape.
jacked, in shape.
So you're asking what happened?
Without asking what happened, I'm
No,
asking what
okay.
happened.
So, back in 2017, 2015, everything started collapsing in my life. Divorce from the love of my life. The TV show was ending. Everything in my children, my adult children, were now moving on with their lives. I kind of gave up. And then of course the stroke. I had a stroke.
I didn't know that you had a stroke.
Yeah, I had a stroke, and after the stroke, I had to have my shoulder rebuilt. And it's just, there was one series of events after another, and I will admit that I gave up, and I ballooned. I went from I had dropped at that point in time. I had been down into around 225, 230. I ballooned up to 225. Excuse me, 325, 330. I think that's when you met me. I had just started to get back.
So when I met you, you were just at the beginning.
Just at the beginning, yeah. I
So-
just started coming back because I literally took 3 years off.
When I met Matt, I was just starting on my fitness journey, and I began going into a martial arts thing called XMA. And I would go in at 5:45 a.m. in the morning. I was the only person there aside from the woman who cleaned the place, who also would work out on the treadmill. But I was there like a half hour before the class started, and I thought I was the only one. Suddenly, silently, there's this man there. Big dude, but he's moving fast and with purpose and friendly as all hell. Like, hey, how you doing? Just automatically, I might as well have known him for 5 years, just the way he was talking to me. And he used me, Matt.
I
Used me as his rest break. He would vanish off into his cycle, come back, and he'd be by this boxing ring where I was stretching and working out. And he'd be hanging off doing some weird ab exercise and just talking to me, chatting as he's catching his breath for the next round. But I had no idea that that was like the start, because at the start, you were intense. You were intense.
Well, you think I had discipline for being there that early. What it was about, let me tell you why I was there that early. One thing I learned when I gained weight and when I got large was how absolutely obnoxiously mean and terrible people can be, both friends, family, and strangers. Okay? So I was at that point where I'm going to go in when I don't have to deal with a soul. I don't have to deal with anybody coming up to me and like bragging on me or talking crap to me. So that was why I came there that early at the time, was to avoid that kind of confrontation with people, because I just didn't want to deal with that.
It is tragic. And one of the themes of this podcast, of course, is I'm trying to talk to people who are in that same situation, the way society basically feels it can talk down, judge, and belittle people who are heavier in weight or having various body issues. I think they also do it to people who are severe ectomorphs, where they can't put on weight if
Yes.
they to save their lives. But there is a general stigma and just overall nastiness, because clearly it can't be. Clearly, there's something wrong with you. You're doing something wrong. And not that there aren't things that need to be worked on, but overall, the permission to be cruel is very pervasive. I mean, even for somebody like you, who before that happening to make you want to shut down, shows how bad it can be.
Oh, it was bad. It was bad. That's a fact. And like I said, it wasn't just from strangers. It was from family members. It was from friends of mine that would, like off the collar, just insults, and, from people that, by the way, from people who had never picked up a weight or done a calisthenic in their entire lives, And now I understand why that was though, Bruce, because I understand why people do the things they do. I hate to say it is jealousy. I always hated that concept of jealousy because I'm like, who am I to be jealous of? But apparently I was. And the fact that I had fallen down really gave some of these people a lot of great joy and happiness.
He's been so good, and now look at him groveling on the ground.
Yeah, look at him now.
Let me just put my boot on his throat and make him feel.
Yeah.
But no, I, as I said, I don't know anybody or anyone or anything. I walk around in blissful ignorance. But very warm, friendly guy. And you worked hard, amazingly hard. And it was sort of like, you always were, seeing you, because our relationship is entirely built around this gym, as are most of my relationships. I will live a weird life. But I would see you and it would make me happy because I could see what you were doing. And you just had this, what I read as like this positive energy. You listened to the right kind of metal, which was always nice. And you were always up for putting on a request.
Yes.
And I will eternally appreciate that.
Mr. Ozzy Osbourne fan.
Yep. Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Here was somebody who basically professional badass. And he slipped. And this is the story of how he slipped and how he's working his way back. But if he can slip, you shouldn't feel too bad about you slipping, because anybody can. And it's natural. And it happens. So you trained to be a professional wrestler. You were fit your entire life.
Right.
You fell off because like you basically got hit with, let's call it what it is, an avalanche of
life.
An avalanche of the absolute nadir of life's experiences,
right,
including a stroke.
So both mentally and physically, I was both hit mentally and physically. So, and you're absolutely right. When you talk about slip, when you talk about fall, everybody, this can happen to anybody. It's not about the fall. And I don't want to say corny. There was a line that Sylvester Stallone said, "It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and get back up."
Mm-hmm.
And ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you this, the fitness industry, who you are, it's you. It's all about you. It's all about your tenacity, your perseverance. Okay? If you want it, go get it. You don't have to worry about anybody. You don't need permission from anybody else, but you need permission from yourself. First, forgive yourself for the things you've done and the way you feel. Shut that off and start getting back to what you need to do.
Always acknowledge your mistake, understand it, and then move on from it.
Move on. Worst thing we do as human beings is we dwell in misery and self-pity. Okay? And
it's addictive.
It is. And every one of us has that friend that every time we talk to them, oh my this, oh my that, oh my wife left me, oh my girlfriend's this, and this is okay, by the way, for about 5 minutes. But when it goes into every time you see them, and this is something else you need to do to people, when you have a friend like this, you know what? One of the best things that ever happened to me was my stepdaughter telling me, "I'm sick of hearing this, Dad. I'm sick of it. You know what to do. Stop acting like a victim. Get off your ass and get back to what you need to do." At the time, it was like a bitch slap in my face because this is one of my favorite kids, right? And I felt a little hurt by it, but then I realized she did it because she loved me and she wanted me to stop doing this. Dad, it's just getting old. Knock it off, And sometimes maybe when you have these friends that are in a position like that, when it goes on and on, maybe one of the hardest things for you to do is give them a good bitch slap. Okay?
Well, a lot of people never get past that stage.
Yes.
One of the things I carry in the back of my head is the fact that both my mother and my brother didn't live particularly good lives. And most of the reason for that is there was always an anger thing, there was always a resentment thing, there was always a grievance in the back of their head that they couldn't let go of. And because of that, they couldn't move past situations and they couldn't take a degree of control. And it truly, in a very real way, crippled them and they were never able to move on from it. And I think everybody has that tendency, but some of us have it a little more than others.
Absolutely.
And because it's in my family, I have to remember that I am always one step away from just collapsing into self-loathing.
Right.
And if I do that, nothing gets done. So it's an active choice to not do that. It's not something that you magically
No.
do, or like for some people, it's easy. Probably not. It just looks easy externally.
Yes.
A lot of things that look easy are the result of a lot of determination and hard work and pushing forward. It just, since you didn't have to make their decision for them,
Right.
you don't see that process. It's never easy, even for the people that make it look easy.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
But the important thing for you is you made that decision. Let's talk a little bit what that decision was in detail. So you made this decision, you had all these issues, you gained all of this weight, and probably felt the worst you've ever felt in your life.
It was terrible. It was terrible. The self-loathing, the shame,
Mm-hmm.
and the shame, just your own self-shame. And then not to mention when people are mean to you, my God,
It reinforces the bad voices in the head.
My God, I'll never forget the worst. I'm standing in line at a restaurant when the COVID thing, I remember we had and this guy I didn't even know comes up. He goes, he says to me, "Wow, looks like you could like use a diet." And I'm like, I wanted to literally punch this man in the face because who the F do you think you are? You're a complete stranger, And I guess because I would never in a million years talk to another human being like this way. It devastated me, And it sounds so ridiculous that a guy like me would have such a thin skin at that point in time. But that's what happened. I was, brought to that level. I just remember getting up one morning and saying, "Look, did you have another question about that?"
No,
Okay.
you continue. I was like, I'm here. It didn't happen to me, but it easily could have. I'm here angry and horrified on your behalf. I want to hit this bastard on your behalf.
Well, someone asked me, I guess the number one question is what did you do and how did you do it?
Diet and exercise is individual. It's one of the big lessons I try to keep putting out there.
Yes.
Is what works for me may not work for you. And even if it sort of works for you, you're going to have to adjust from what I'm doing.
Bravo. I'm glad you said that.
But what I want to know is, one, from an exercise standpoint, which is important, but not nearly as important as what did you do with the diet?
Okay.
Because working out builds you up,
Right.
but losing weight, that is almost completely diet.
Okay.
So let's start with working out, because
Working out, and keep in mind, I'm 59 years old now. Okay. The biggest thing I will say to people, men and women over 40, okay, that are training is take your ego out of the equation. Okay. Take your ego out of the equation, go slow. A lot of my friends that are in the same category as I am are overweight and given up because they refuse to go back to the gym, and because they know they can't do what they used to do. Okay. And I'll just give you, for example, I would go into the gym when I was younger. I could go in, I could throw 225 on a bench, and I could crack out 30 reps with 225, which is 2 plates on each side. Now I come in and I literally, I'm not kidding, because I start with the bar and I warm up. And when I do lateral, I don't worry about weight anymore. I worry about quality of workout and consistency of workout. Okay. And that's the most important part. Take your ego out of the equation, get your butt back to the gym, go back into your own gym, back to the whatever gym you're going to go to. Be there, be consistent, and don't worry about what the guy next to you is looking at. Like, if you're doing 5-pound lateral raises, so what? So what? You do your thing, let him do his thing.
And also remember, if you need to start off at 5 pounds, eventually you can build that up a little bit. It's not like what you can't do is start, if you can only do 5 and you try to grab 20s, you're going to tear your shoulder and then you're not going to be working out for 3 months.
There it is.
So
there it is.
And also, it's not a race. It really isn't. Or if you're going to look at it as a race, it's not a sprint. It's a marathon.
Yeah, it's a marathon.
And so you need to really, really pace yourself. But back to your advice.
We talking about, are we still on
you were talking
or now
we're talking, you're still going, you're still talking about how you work out. So let's talk to this theoretical person that I keep talking to, who is a guy who is trying to make the decision to start back up.
Right.
He wants to go to the gym. He doesn't know what to do.
Right.
What would your advice be specifically to him? Here, you're going to go into the gym, and if you listen to what I say, here's what I say you should do.
Is this gentleman ever been acclimated to weight training at all?
Let's assume he's not.
Okay. So I will say this. I think it is worth the time and worth the money to invest in a private trainer to get you started. If you have no concept of the weight training and what, it can be a very intimidating place, as you know. I mean, even for guys like me that can be an intimidating place once you, even to restart. So if you know nothing about the gym, I would suggest either you find someone like me that you can talk to online, or you get a private trainer and spend a month, 2 months with that private trainer, get acclimated to the gym. Then, use that trainer as long as you want to. But I always feel that you need to wean off a trainer. That's just my personal opinion on private training. You need to get to a point where you can get in there by yourself, because the bottom line, this is you. This is all about you. That's it. Focusing on yourself. That's just my opinion. I'm sure a lot of the private trainers out there would be mad at me for saying that. But I think use your trainer for a period of time. Then every once in a while, you go back and touch base with that private trainer. But I guess maybe because the gym to me is a very personal, it's a private, personal thing for me. Do you understand what I mean by that, Bruce?
I think so.
It's my time. That's my church. It's my meditation place. So I guess I don't really need people around me. I don't need a trainer. I don't need people around me to motivate me. I'm self-motivated in that direction. Not necessarily the rest of my life, but in that issue, I'm very self-motivated.
Let's take a moment and assume maybe this person doesn't have the means.
Okay.
Like they can afford themselves a membership to 24-hour.
Okay.
Or generic gym X down the street, but they're going to be going in there alone.
Okay.
I've given thoughts before on how this person might start. But if he couldn't have the trainer,
okay,
which is a great idea, by the way, having somebody show you how your body is going to adapt to this is a wonderful thing. I definitely endorse that.
Okay. So you start like any of us did. If you go into a gym, and this is where the social thing comes into play, watch somebody that's doing something. Whatever, like say they're working their chest, or they're working their bicep, or their whatever it may be. Most of the guys in the gym will be more than happy to give you a little advice. Most of the guys I've met at the gyms, in fact, you probably run into guys that want to over-advise you. In fact, but if you're not too shy, walk up to somebody and say, hey, what do you do to get a chest like that? And I'm telling you, they will take the time. Some of them will take the time to tell you, but a lot of them will take the time to even show you. But it's up to you to take that first step, though. And that's the rough part, guys. The rough part is taking that first step. It's just like going out on the dance floor and asking that girl to dance. The dance isn't hard. It's asking that girl, can you dance with me? Right? So, yeah, that's what I would do. And now that the video, now that the online thing is happening so prevalent now, you can reach out, and there are people out there that you can go online too. I'm sure you can find Bruce online.
I always give you my information at the end of these videos.
You can find me online. You can find people online, and even on Facebook or on Instagram, and write them a little letter. Hey, I'm very impressed with your physique, or you've inspired me. What can you tell me? How did you do this? How did you do that? And I'm telling you, a lot of people will take the time to write back to you, and they will tell you what you need to do. But like Bruce said, though, training, it's all a matter of individualism. And what works for me may not work for you. And that will take time for you to figure out what works for you. Somebody asked me one time, what is the best exercise, for building your tricep? I said, the one you'll do. And they said, excuse me? The one that works for you is the best exercise. Because the one that works for you may not work for me. The one that works for me may not work for you. That's something you got to figure out.
There's definitely a degree of, I like this exercise. Like for triceps for me, I like an exercise called a skull crusher, where you lay flat on a bench.
Right.
And we have a bent bar, but you can do it with a straight bar. You can do it with dumbbells. But basically from the flat bench, you are bringing them over your head and then pressing them out, which is a weird angle.
Right.
I'll do a video on it sometime at the gym just to show you, because I can't show you in this chair. It's going to make no sense. But afterwards, I can really feel it, and I know that makes a difference. And I like doing them. And that's the key is, hey, this is fun. Because ultimately, you want to get into either a spiritual spot, as Matt does, which is the gym is my church. I find my zen there. Or for me, it's like a play around social, and I just happen to be really good at torturing myself. So I in a very weird way, enjoy it. So I can spend hours doing it. But you find your thing that you connect to, and then that makes the gym much more possible for you to get the growth you want out of it. Because if you view it as, oh God, I've got to go there.
Yeah.
It's not going to work for you. If you hate every moment doing it, then it's hard to advise past that. And that's a matter of finding the right exercises. Because I think if the goal isn't not to build your body, like to really like boom bars out your
Right.
chest, and it's just to become like fit and healthy, really the actual exercises don't matter that much.
No, they really don't. It's all about getting movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, that's it.
And you find the ones you like, make it a hobby, make it fun. And you might really enjoy bench pressing, where you might really hate you might enjoy barbell bench pressing. You might hate dumbbell bench pressing.
Yes.
If you're not trying to, like I said, build little this humongous breastplate, and you just want to get some tone and fitness to your body, doesn't matter which one you do.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. Again, ironically, that one exercise that you like the most, I hate. That tricep,
the skull crusher.
I hate that. It hurts my shoulders. I don't like it. I'm scared when I'm coming down, because if it slips and hits my head, blah, blah, blah. Right? But you're
got to
right.
preserve the prettiness we got. I understand. I understand.
So it's funny, ironically speaking, that's funny. The one that works for you, I hate the most,
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of tricep one-arm tricep kickbacks.
And that's and that's my favorite. And that is my favorite. Or overhead.
I had a feeling. I'm neutral on overhead. Overhead, I just feel like fully kind of extended in a weird way from here, and I don't like that.
You don't like it. I get it.
Right.
I get it.
But again, the universe has provided us with so many options to go for through this. Another one I like is just like the push downs.
Right.
That one's just fun.
You've seen the commercials now for, I don't want to put brands on blast, but Peloton, and the intense high volume workouts. I think I'm sorry, I don't agree with the pushing until you're gonna fall down routines that these people are pushing.
Only so many people can adapt to it. 'Cause that's-
Exactly.
Like I can get into that kind of thing. Um, I find the culture of these companies to be a bit bourgeois, so it
Yes.
doesn't suit me. Where um, I kind of like having to chase Scott with my gloves. That like you saw me, and he's got me doing things that me just going back to the gym I don't have the endurance for, but I will plug through them. And if I've got to stop in the middle of them and take 5 deep breaths and then continue, I will.
Right.
That's my speed. Or when you saw me in the ring doing rolls and flips and just
Right.
going as much as I possibly can before it becomes unsafe.
Yes.
But I think for a lot of people, that kind of like just keep going until you like as far as you can thing is bad.
Well, I do, because then the average guy or the average woman will look at that, and then when you can't do it, you feel like this big ass loser because you see all these, these people like, come on, let's push this 30 minutes and let's rock and let's move. And I know it hurts, but keep going. I'm sorry. And then a lot of people cannot keep up with that. I'm telling you, I would have a hard time keeping up with that now. And I'm probably in better shape than I've been in years, but I'm not going to push it. And I'm not going to let somebody else push me. I'm going to do what I'm going to need to do to get back in shape and to feel better about myself. But but again, that is just an opinion. That's an opinion of a person that's been training since 1973. So, excuse me. Yeah, since 1973 is when I first picked up a weight. And like I said, when I was on the wrestling team, they really pushed. I mean, we really pushed, where you're dying and the whole bit. That's okay when you're a teenager. It's okay when you're in your 20s. But I don't agree with it when you're in your late 30s, late 40s, and 50s and 60s. Just take like I said, take it slow and enjoy yourself. It should be an enjoyable time. It shouldn't be, oh God, I gotta,
If it works for you, it works for you, and that's fine.
Right.
But if it doesn't mean that you've somehow failed.
There it is.
It means that you're either trying to go too far, too fast, too soon.
Right.
So don't, because you can build towards that if that's what you want to build towards. But if you, because like right now, and I'm sure you had your bugaboos when you started back up, like you're 100 pounds overweight, you start moving again, and now you've got weak points that you didn't have before that you're just encountering. And I'm willing to bet one of those weak points were your ankles.
Believe it or not, it wasn't my ankles and it wasn't my knees. It was my hips that I was having trouble with. And it's funny now because some of the workouts I do now, when I'll carry 70, 80 pounds on a walk, just
Farmer's walk.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I was carrying around 100 pounds before. And now I'm carrying around 60-pound dumbbells, 60 pounds worth of weight. I'm like, holy crap, this is rough, and so.
Somebody asked me, was like, when you're training, are you going to put on like a weight vest? It's sort of like, I've got a 78-pound weight vest on me all the time. I don't need to do that right now.
No, yeah.
Like right now, I would just love to get a pull up. I don't need to put on a weight vest and try it. Yeah, it's like for me, my ankles, because I'm trying to do a lot and it does require, and there's a bunch of agility involved.
Right.
So I'll feel it in my ankles, and specifically my left Achilles right now. And that really sucks. But, so right now, not the time for me to train to run a 5K.
Well, by the way, I will tell you that, by the way, I'm going to tell you something. Injuries are going to happen, and you're going to be stiff and you're going to be sore. You have to know your body. You have to know what you can push through and what, I better not do that again. That's a whole, and this is something you're going to have to learn. I can't teach you this. Bruce can't teach you that. No one, not your personal trainer can't teach you. This is something you have to figure out. But I guess what I'm telling you is it ain't going to be easy, but it is worth it. It is worth it. I'm telling you, it is worth it. And I'm telling you this because now we can reverse health issues now with nutrition and proper diet, proper exercise and proper mental attitude. And all of these things coincide with each other. The proper mental attitude, the proper diet, proper exercise. They all work out together. You need all three of these to make it happen. But you can change. Like, for example, when I was 100 pounds overweight, my blood pressure was through the roof. They wanted to put me on blood pressure medication. They wanted to put me on cholesterol medication for the rest of my life. After I've lost 100 pounds, my blood pressure is 128 over 67, 68. My cholesterol level has dropped, and without any medication whatsoever. And because we all know guys my age that are on 12, 13, 14 different prescription medications. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not downing prescription medication, but there are things that you can take over and change yourself. You just gotta stop being lazy. I'm sorry, there's no other word around it. Stop being lazy. Get off your butt. Start moving. Now I'm gonna when Bruce talks about the diet, I want you to get your pad and pencils out because this is going to be very intense and it's going to be very direct and you're going to have to write it down.
Of course, this is also going to be on video, so you can listen to it over a couple of times. So yeah, let's transition into your diet, your diet.
Are you ready? Do you have your pencil and pad ready? Are you ready to take all this valid information down? So here it is, folks. Just have some common sense about the food that you put into your body. Period. It doesn't get any more complex than that. Okay? Find out a basic diet. There are many of them out there. When I say diet, I'm not talking about deprivation, by the way. I'm talking about proper foods that you eat. The amount of food you eat.
Things along the perimeter of the supermarket, not down the aisles.
There you go. Stay away from canned foods of any kind whatsoever. Period. Anything processed, stay away from. And here's the biggest one. Write this down. Stay away from soda pop. Alleviate that from your diet. It is pure poison. Ladies and gentlemen, stay away from it. Period. Get more water into your system. Like I said, I'm not telling you, this is no great secret from the gods. Use common sense, okay? And my biggest thing, if your schedule allows it, stop your caloric intake after 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Completely, after that last meal of the night, stop it. And when I say your last meal of the night, make sure it's try to eat 2 hours, 3 hours before you go to bed.
3 hours. 3 hours is the better window. So
exactly.
let's leave it at 3 hours.
2 to 3 or 3 hours before you go to bed. And what that means is you can't go sneaking back to the refrigerator and shove something in your mouth before you try to do that.
The reason Matt is telling you to do that is when you go to sleep is when your body does the majority of its changes. That's where you get muscle growth. It releases human growth hormone. There's a bunch of other various hormones that get released. Having an insulin spike going on in your body at that time disrupts that entire process. So you need a good 3 hours for your insulin to come back down and not disrupt these processes. That's why the 3 hours is incredibly important. And I just wanted to give that little bit of clarification.
I dropped the majority of my weight by not eating after doing that 3 hour window after eating at my last meal of the evening. I dropped 60 pounds without doing cardio. By just doing that alone. Also, how many of you out there know that person that's overweight and said, well, I ate one meal a day and I'm still gaining weight? Well, we all know why that's happening now. The body's a very unique piece of equipment, okay? If you do that to yourself, the body goes into what we call starvation mode. What I'm telling you is this is all basic information. You may not even know it, but it's all basic information. So anything that you do eat, if you're eating 1 or 2 meals a day, the body stores in fat. The body will store it in fat, and now you'll gain weight. Even if you're working out, even if you're only eating that 1 or 2 meals a day, best way to do it. I eat 5 to 6 meals a day. Now I eat a decent breakfast. Now when I say a very common sense breakfast, 2 eggs, usually one egg white, one piece of toast. You'd be surprised, by the way, the amount of food Americans eat at breakfast. You ever gone out and watched people eat at breakfast?
I mean, I just did that like last week. So.
A slab of hash browns about that big, 3 eggs, 4 pieces of toast, and I've seen people wash that down.
Have you gone to Lancers?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Lancers?
Yeah.
Have you gotten the corned beef hash and eggs?
Yeah. See how much food there is on that plate?
Yes. I've never, ever successfully, me.
Finished it?
I have never successfully finished that.
Yeah.
And you can substitute the toast for 2 pancakes. And not little pancakes, an actual thing. Which if you're going to do it right, you got to do the substitution.
And there it is.
But that literally is potentially a 2,000, 2,500 calorie meal.
And if you're drinking coffee with creamer, or most people now are drinking Coke with their, like having a Coke with their, you're raising it well up into the 3,000 range, And
that's breakfast.
And that's breakfast, by the way,
Most people, I don't think most people realize that even when you're doing something a lot more sane than Lancers, which is just about anywhere else you might go,
right?
It's still, most meals that people are having range into, if it's eating out, range somewhere from, if you're low, 700-800 calories to probably around 12 to 14.
Well,
and that would be just like your normal.
Well, most when I go out on a date, by the way, if we go to a restaurant,
he's sitting on me right now.
Like if you go to Black Angus, or if you go to the bigger restaurants, there is literally enough food when they bring one meal out. There's enough food for 2 people. So I've done that when I've gone on a date. What are you having? Well, let's share. And if they can't share what I'm having, I'll share what they're having. And there's more than enough to satisfy 2 people. So if you're wondering why most of America is overweight and obese, the amount of portions that we have become the norm. And that's when that's the part you need to change. Now, like I said, literally in the morning, I have 2 eggs, an egg white and a whole egg, 1 piece of toast, a half a banana, and a glass of orange juice, or like a half a glass of orange juice. That's my breakfast. And I'm perfectly satisfied. 2 hours later, I have another small meal. 2 hours after that, I'll have lunch. 2 hours again, I'll have another small meal. And 2 hours after that, I'll have dinner. Okay. But I probably eat less food in a day than you will eat in 3 days. Most of America will eat in 3 days. Excuse me.
Yeah, I was going to say the math.
But you understand what I'm
saying?
Because
those are some pretty big meals. If that's like, but what you meant is that what you're going to eat in 3 days would amount to what the average American eats in 1 day.
1 day. That's okay. Yeah. That's what I was really trying to say. And portion control is the biggest thing, and it's a very hard psychological thing to break too. Because
here's a trick for that that I don't personally do, but I've heard about is most plates that you have are dinner plates.
Right.
So you psychologically want to fill that plate.
Right.
Use a smaller, like a little salad plate, or even.
That's what I do.
Yep.
That's what I do.
Another little trick is get smaller silverware. These are psychological tricks, but they do work.
Absolutely.
If you're going to eat the way Matt eats, this helps you psychologically satisfy yourself. It's sort of like if you're going to have a bag of chips, which is not encouraged, but if you get yourself a small bag of chip, you'll eat the bag of chips.
Right.
If you get yourself a big bag of chips,
eat the whole bag.
You'll eat a bag of chips.
Yep.
So if you don't want to eat 1,000 calories worth of chips, you get the 200 calorie bag of chips. It is the whole thing with portion control.
By the way, carbonated beverage, even Perrier, even seltzer water, the carbonation in a beverage when you're drinking it with food slows down the stomach acid when you're eating. So what does that do when you're eating and you're slowing down your stomach acid? It's making that food sit in your stomach that much longer before it breaks down. So I would say, I'm imploring you out there, try not to drink a carbonated beverage while you're eating. You can have one of these Perrier. You can even have when I say don't drink soda pop, I'm not talking about alleviate it completely out of you. I mean, you can have a couple of these things a week, but try, especially, like what is the biggest thing we do as Americans when we order pizza? What do we wash it down with? One of the biggest carbs that we're eating is pizza, and we wash it down with Coke. It just sits there and rots in your belly for that much longer before it gets processed through. So stop drinking carbonated beverages with your meals, if at all possible.
I have to admit, I'm sometimes guilty of that, though. My big drink is iced tea. Unsweetened iced tea is my jam. So,
well, I don't see how that's bad. I mean,
I don't see how that's bad either.
Unsweetened iced tea. These Crystal Light products. Yeah, okay. I would. Those are, but even those, keep those down to 1 or 2 a day. I know people. I drink 8 or 9 of those a day. I mean, the bottom line. Let's face it. It's all. It is chemical.
It is chemical.
It's a chemical, and
it's even
it's better than Coke, but
at best it's neutral. At worst, who knows? Because who knows?
Yeah.
Basically, it's real foods, whole foods, not processed foods.
Nothing processed. And I alleviate carbs after the second meal of the day. I do alleviate carbs after the second meal of the day.
And how that helps him is he has 2 meals where he's getting an insulin spike and an insulin spike, at which point his other meals are not producing nearly as much insulin reaction, which effectively gives him a 14 to 16, possibly even an 18-hour window where his insulin isn't peaking.
Right.
And that's part of the key to how he lost weight, because if he was insulin spiking throughout the day, he probably Matt wouldn't have been able to lose the weight he was able to lose.
The irony of though is now that I've gotten back down to 220, the funniest part is losing this. I'm going to drop another 20. Losing this last 20 pounds has been, I forgot to tell you guys about this, by the way. Once you do get to a certain goal and you want to drop a little more, it's going to be harder. It's harder and harder. You know what I'm talking about, Bruce.
Yeah.
When you get there, like I said, I wanted to drop this last 20 pounds, and it's been holding on like an ex-wife, it's been holding on like a bitter ex-wife. And again, it's all about perseverance. You have to look at it and go, you're not going to beat me. I'm going to beat you. But it's all on you.
Oh, he's
not to downtrodden the women in my life, but
send all legal comments care of Matt Burch at we're gonna burn his house down.com. Well, when you're talking about the last 20 pounds, the further you have to go, the easier it is to lose it.
Right.
Partially because even though muscle is a very active tissue where fat is not.
Right.
But still carrying it around requires energy. So your energy needs are going down as you're losing weight. And you can counterbalance that with how much you work out.
Right.
But your base level metabolism does kind of drop. So somebody who weighs 400 pounds is going to find that first 100 pounds to lose much easier than you did at 300. And of course, at 300, much easier than it's going to be at 200. So the last 20, and also there tends to be your body hits what's called homeostasis, where your body wants to be this weight.
Right.
You've always been a big beefy boy throughout your entire life. Chances are 220 is kind of, even though you've got some more that you can go, your body probably is quite happy. It's probably hit a degree of homeostasis. So now you're a little working against what your body naturally wants.
Exactly. You up the cardio a little bit. You up your game. It's all about upping your game a little bit.
Yeah. Do you have any other fitness, diet, or mindset advice you feel would be pertinent?
When I'm closing out today with you today is stay positive. Alleviate, if you can, alleviate the people in your life that are negative and toxic.
So let's talk a moment about that, because I really like that topic, because there's a lot of people who find themselves being held back because of the people they've chosen.
Yes.
And even more than chosen, sometimes it's family.
Yes.
And you feel like you owe your family your loyalty and allegiance no matter what they do to you. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Nothing could be further from the truth. Family, exactly. And family can be some of the worst. I'm going to give you an example. When I was a kid working out, and I met Arnold, and I met, and my brother, of course, was a bodybuilder. And I remember I was 13 years old, and what did you want to be? And I said, I want to be an action movie TV star bodybuilder type guy. And my mother and my dad and my sister told me I was ridiculous, that not many people make it in that industry, and I should be going into something else.
Accounting.
Whatever exactly. So, and it literally, I will often wonder. Now, I did attain some notoriety as I've gotten older, okay, but it took me years of deprogramming negative behavior. But I often wonder if I would have had an ounce of positive feedback when I was a kid and pushing me in the right direction. Could I have been a Van Damme? Could I have been a Schwarzenegger? Could I have been a Stallone? I think so. If you see pictures of me when I was younger, I could have been one of these guys. If I would have had an ounce of encouragement, So my thing to you people is if you have negative people in your life, alleviate them. I'm sorry. And even if they're family, and sometimes it's hard to do that when it's family, but you only have one life, and you can't worry about what these people need. You have to worry about what you need. You have to be a little selfish sometimes, because it's one life and you have to be happy.
And you have to also remember that you are the aggregate of the people you surround yourself by. You will be affected by who they are, their attitudes, and they will shape you. And either of these are people who are making positive additions to your life, or they're making negative additions to your life.
Right.
And ultimately, you can withstand a lot of things in your world. But if the people closest to you are just negative and pulling you down, you will never, ever outrun the gravity of that negativity. Just like if you're surrounded by a bunch of supportive, positive people, you will go further than you are capable of going on your own.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
And it's one of the fundamental facts of your life. And it's one of the things that if you don't change it for yourself, if you just keep surrounding yourself with negativity and your life is not good, which chances are if you are surrounded by negativity, your life is not good, it's never going to get better. And it's a hard fact, and it's a shame that that's how the world works. But either people are lifting you up or dragging you down, and you have to identify who they are and make some hard decisions there. It's just life.
Yes, I agree 100%. I agree. So, and oftentimes we're so worried about hurting these people's feelings, okay, that we're worried about hurting their feelings, and we're being downtrodden by them, but we're worried about hurting their feelings. Because I know you've been there. You've done it. I've done it. And I'm not saying you should go tell your sister to go F off, or what I'm saying is comfortably distance yourself from people. Like I said, doesn't mean you have to be an ass about it, but distance yourself from these people, whether they be friends, family, acquaintances, coworkers. Just distance yourself. Have as little to do with negative people as you possibly can.
Yeah, you can still be kind.
Yes.
And you should always strive to be kind.
Absolute fact.
Because ultimately, people will respond to more positive energy and will see you in better light. Don't be a doormat, but don't be an asshole.
Don't be a victim, but don't be an asshole.
Yep. Do you want to talk a little bit about, you had mentioned to me, like when I asked you, hey, Matt, you want to come on?
Yeah.
You felt sexy, man, you. And you were like, yeah, I want to talk about this. Like, there's this thing I'm thinking of doing because I want to encourage people as they're getting up there in age. Do you have like a plan in mind, a project in mind?
Well,
Is there something you might want to talk about?
what I wanted to do was do something like what you're doing here and have an open forum, especially for guys over 50. Because, to tell them that it's not over. You're 50, because you ever watch that show Barney Miller? Did you ever watch the show Barney Miller?
I'm aware that it existed.
Okay. There was a scene in there, and there was a guy named Abe Vigoda. There was a scene in there, and he was talking, I'm a 63-year-old man, and this guy looked like he was in his 90s. He said, I'm a 63-year-old man, and I can't do this anymore. The guy was 63, and he looked like he was in his 90s. Okay? I'm almost 60, and I can outdo a lot of guys that are in their 20s.
I've watched you do that.
Okay, so, right? You know what I mean? And that's, by the way, that's not my goal to outdo these younger guys. That's not my goal. But
there's a little bit of pride happening there when he does it. He's being modest.
But what I just like to do is get a forum for guys and men and women. By the way, I'm not prejudiced towards women. I love women. But
no, it's just natural to talk about guys because
that's
where you come from.
Yeah.
But I think what you want to do is have this you want to have. It's about the people reaching their sunset years without, basically building their box around them at age 50.
Yeah, because a lot of people give up at a certain age. They do. And again, I believe it's because of the diet, because their diet was crap, because they weren't exercising, because they weren't doing things. You can change it, but I'm telling you, you can change it around. All you got to do is have the want and the know-how.
So, are you just like it's early stage or?
Oh, but it's
just an idea.
It's conceptual right now. It's like I said, I want to be able to reach out. I want these people to be able to reach out to me, and I can individually talk to them for a few minutes and tell them what, give them some encouragement,
Basically sort of like a Discord server for the older age, and you might be going.
And by the way, if you think this is easy for me, let me tell you something, okay? I have had the left shoulder rebuilt. I have a titanium left shoulder. I have a titanium right hip. I've had a compound fracture of the tib fib. I've been shot twice. Okay. I have had a number of injuries over the years. This is not something, well, Matt, you can do it because it's easy for you. No, it's not. No, it's not. The reason I bring all this up is not to brag about these injuries, but to tell you, injuries are not an excuse, by the way. Okay. I've seen guys in there with prosthetic limbs, working out. I mean,
I saw somebody with
phenomenal shape.
I saw somebody with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair doing shoulder presses.
We probably know who the young man. I think I know the young man. You're
I mean, I actually did a set with him simply because it seemed like something to do because he was there, and you may not, wherever you're at in your life, you may not be able to rep out 500 pound chest presses, but you don't have to. It doesn't really matter where you start.
Right.
It just matters that you start.
And I say these injuries because most of these things happen to us after 40 or after 50. The body breaks down. Let's face it. But I'm telling you right now, it ain't no excuse.
And also, as the body is going to break down more if you don't build it back up, you have two choices with pain. You are either going to be in pain from building yourself up, or you're going to be in pain from breaking down.
Right.
And one seems easier because it doesn't require the direct will of putting in the effort.
Right.
So you can just simply sit on the couch. But then everything in your life gets progressively harder.
Yep.
You either put in the time acutely or you pay the price over a much longer period of time.
And that's about as simple as it gets. It's all about movement. Again, guys, it's all about movement.
And it's not as hard as you think it is.
No, it's really not. And like Bruce said, you don't have to be in it. You don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger when you go into a gym. It's all, just be consistent. Just get in there, do your thing, have a good time. And I'm telling you, it's worth the effort. I'm telling you, it's worth the effort. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I was on my way out. I'm not kidding, Bruce. I was on my way out.
No.
I was really on my way out when I decided to get back into the. When I say on my way out, I mean my health was. I was in a sorry state of affairs, and I have literally done a 180, taken that and done a 180 with it. Okay, and I plan to be here. So I just got this hip done 2 months ago. And
2 months ago.
2 months ago. Yeah, and you see,
he still has the warranty.
Yeah. Well, the doctor said I'm going to get 30 years out of it. And I'm like, and I plan to use each. And so that'll put me at 91 years old when, and I plan to use every single one of those years, by the way. I have 2 grandchildren. I plan to hang out with them. I plan to walk both of them down there when they get married someday. I plan to be here for quite some time to come.
And putting in the effort to make sure that it's quality.
I'll be here. I'll be here. And I'll be here to help you out too. So if you want to ask Matt, I'll be here.
Well, speaking of that, Matt.
Yeah.
One, thank you for being here. And where can people find you when they're not finding you here? Again, in my living room.
Well, I do have an Instagram page, Repo Matt 64. I do have 4 Facebook pages. You have to be careful. I did a TV show for 12 years called Operation Repo. So there are a few people out there that have fake pages. But if you
we're going to put direct. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get the direct links from you, and then they're going to be published in this episode. It'll be on the YouTube, and
they can find me from there. After
they'll be able to click from there. Yeah. But still, you should be saying where you're. You should still be laying it out here.
Well, like I said, Matt Burch. If you look up Matt Burch on Facebook, you'll find who I am, and please friend request me, and I'll be glad to talk to you. And again, you can find me on Instagram.
And of course, I am the fittest fat kid you know, and you can always find me here on my podcast, The Fittest Fat Kid You Know. All of my socials are at Fittest Fat Kid, including my Facebook page, and as Matt said, reach out. I am here to answer questions. I am here to commiserate, to advise, to sympathize, to make fun of, to make light of. And you can email me at hi@fittestfatkid.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Watch us on YouTube. I'm always around. And so, once again, hold yourself accountable, but do it with kindness and understanding. And I'll see you next week.
Peace.